Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and we are back, and guess what? Today is Halloween. Now, you'd only get that if you saw the last episode. We thought the whole time we were shooting a Halloween episode on Halloween, but today is actually Halloween. You can go back if you'd like to. If you didn't catch that one, you can hear some of the things we talked about with Halloween, but we're going to welcome you in. Glad that you are here. And we're just going to spend some time and we're going to talk together. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You know what? That even messed me up. I must have a time continuum issue with Halloween.
Yeah.
Because you're like, today is Halloween. And I'm like, is it really? Is today Halloween? I thought Sunday was Halloween. And it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be airing on Sunday. You're so good at like dropping yourself into the moment you're going to be in.
Right. Fast forward into the future.
Dude, that's usually my jam.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm on the struggle bus. Struggle. And it has nothing to do with the length of the bus. Mm-hmm. I'm not like doing any preconceived ideas about, occupancy size.
Right. Exactly.
I'm just saying the bus is a struggle, so we're on the big magic bus flying through the universe. Mm-hmm. Two guys, Phil and Steve, enjoying telling stories and making observations. Right. The other thing that we really, really enjoy is we enjoy current culture and just being able to bring to the listening audience things from our observation.
Right.
Yeah. So how am I doing? That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
Good.
Yeah. I wasn't feeling well this week.
Right.
Like Monday, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling. You and I have covered that. Went to Atlanta, and so I'm living first world problems right now. Mm-hmm. You know, when your biggest bitch about life is technology in the hotel.
Yeah. That is first world right there.
Right. First world problems. I did problem solve. Mm-hmm. Michaela, my daughter, was telling me that she's traveled to multiple locations for store openings for a brand of steakhouse that we'll not mention.
Yeah.
Because they're not a sponsor yet.
We're still going to shoot for that too.
Well, why not? I mean, we're just finishing up season 4. If you're a new listener and you're wondering how all this works, we have divided the annual year into 4 different segments. Mm-hmm. For most people, they would understand a quarter would be 12 weeks. And with that, we minus 2 weeks, and we do 10 episodes per season, 4 seasons per annum. Right. And so anyway, we are... Yeah, we're just working down through that, and it's
moving right along.
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking, because Adam continues to make fun of us about how bad our math is, but I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers and how they interact together, they play together. Ever since I was a little kid, It was like that. You know, you go right down and a 5 and a 3, and how that 5s really kind of look like 3s, but they're not the same number, and stuff. But I was thinking, today's episode 4.
Right.
So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You're 4 episodes in, and it's the number 4.
It's true.
Right?
So season 4, episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
It's like golden.
44. Double 4s.
Double 4s.
Man, double 4s, that's called a hard 8.
Hard 8.
In the realm of craps. Hey, speaking of gambling.
Yeah. So
this is going to be our fun rabbit trail. I'm going to go to gambling. So I was on the plane last night, and Delta still has the displays.
Yeah.
And but I didn't have a hard set of earphones. I had my Bluetooth earphones.
Right.
To go with my iPad for whatever I downloaded from the different apps.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing was looking at the games. Well, I love Queen's Gambit. I know how to play chess.
Right.
Haven't played chess in years. And as I pushed the button to start on chess, I was like, I got no beginning. I got no middle game. I got no end game. This is going to be miserable. Played 3 games of chess, and But then I saw a Texas Hold'em app, and I thought, well, this will be delightful.
Yeah.
And so I pushed the Texas Hold'em app, and it's like, well, do you want to play, like live? You can actually, if you have people on the same plane, sitting in different seats, you can sit down at the Texas Hold'em, and you can play each other.
Huh.
Which is
that are on the plane.
Like if you knew each other, you could be able to dial in the seats and invite them to come to the table, and then you all could play together.
Did not know that.
Which I'm not really sure playing Texas Hold'em is a mission trip thing, but that's the application I thought it would work for. So then what I noticed is that, and it took me a while because I'm a slowpoke coming to the table.
Right.
Like if you're looking for the idiot. I mean, we proved that last week for our. I'm just like absent-minded professor. So, I notice I'm like, it says D32. Wait, that's my seat. Literally, they put me into a game where there was an open chair, and they put me at a table with all the other seat players that were playing. And they started us out with, it was $500 each.
Yeah.
And before we actually parked at the terminal, I won. I took everybody out.
Wow.
Yeah. And Amy was awake at the time, and I said, yeah, I just and I had just won a big hand, and I was at like $1,300, and then it trailed off because of the way I was betting and the hands I was playing and stuff like that, and I got down to about $900, and then it was down to 4-player, and I brought out my best Texas Hold'em game, and won the whole thing.
Wow!
Now the most I've ever won at a casino playing Texas Hold'em was about $800.
Yeah. Like in real life, not
in real life, not on, and I mean, before they outlawed playing these games online and stuff like that, back in the day when Texas Hold'em was the rage and they had all these apps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of different, I don't know what, like playoffs and stuff like that, but I never really won big at all, but. My old boss at the mortgage place and we would go down on Tuesday mornings and we would get into, it was a low buy-in, but it was, again, a tournament, a morning tournament. And their deal there is they raise the blinds to keep things moving. And so anyway, but I told Amy, I'm like, hey, by the way, I won't be going to the casino because I just did well here. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to the casino because, I mean, the reality is like, it was fun to tap into that thing that I hadn't done for a while, and stuff. And so now we're talking about gambling, but I go back to the number. Season 4, episode 4, that's a hard 8, okay? We got that going. But if we were doing a countdown to the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, your first episode is 10. Your second episode is 9. Your third episode is 8. Your fourth episode is 7. You only have 6 episodes left. But if you're at 7, do you really feel like you're 4 episodes in?
No.
It feels like 3 episodes in.
Right.
Yeah, that because your start number is 10. And I'm like, well, numerically, that just feels wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. I'm like, I'm glad we're doing the count up instead of the count down. Because at least it has a numerical symmetry that allows for me to feel at ease about the work that we're doing here. And I love the idea that it's a hard 8.
Yeah. What is the probability on a hard 8? Do you know? What is I'm trying to remember
the payout?
table. Yeah.
So in theory, I should be able to do that in my head. I think, so hard 8 is a one-time bet
right
in the middle of the table where all of the doubles of the combinations of dice, I'm just sharing this with people who've never been at a craps table.
Right, they don't know.
Yeah, they're like, I don't understand that game. I mean, if I had $1 for every person that I was at the casino with who was like, why do you play that? I don't understand that game, I'm like, well,
it is the best game in the casino, in my opinion.
yeah. And here's the thing is that when I've played, and I even said this to Amy, I said, when it comes to cards, here's where I'm the absent-minded professor. I'm an idiot, okay? If I had my dad's mind for numbers, I would be dangerous playing cards.
Yeah.
Because I'm fairly good at playing cards.
Like counting cards, then you're saying, right?
No, actually in Texas Hold'em, it's numbers, it's divisions, it's being able to take every card within a suit and subtracting the amount of cards that are in the burn pile, subtracting the amount of cards that are around the table that everyone else is holding, and seeing what the combinations of what could take place on the middle cards as they're unfolding, and that changes. That math changes every time there's a burn card and there's a turn card, and whether people are folding or not, and the likelihoods of what people have.
Isn't that kind of like card counting, though?
No. Card counting is being able to look at every. Well, I suppose it would be a gingerly walk to card counting. When I think of counting cards, I think of the pros who are counting a multi-deck shoe at 21. And they're keeping track multiple hands of what's been burned through a shoe to know what the likelihood is of what somebody's going to roll over in.
Right, which most of the time it's multi-deck blackjack in Vegas, but they still have a couple of places, I think over in Fremont Street, that they still do single-deck blackjack, which can be dangerous if people know what they're doing.
Exactly. And, I mean, there's people that are banned from casinos because they're like, I mean, it's a true craft. But there's where I'm at. I'm just an intuitive player. And when it comes to Texas Hold'em, it's all intuitive. I'm looking at the part. I'm paying attention to how many times I'm raising based on good hands. And then to throw the other players off, what I do is I raise the same amount even when I have a bad hand. But then, and I'll throw money away because what I'm doing is I'm letting them think that I've got good hands when I don't. But then that way, when I have a bad hand, but I feel like the table's weak, I can keep them guessing. Yeah. And then, you just like, when you got a 3-6 offsuit, that's not really one of my hands. But I have a hard time turning away a king 8. That doesn't even make sense. But man, then if they're suited, I won on a straight last night. I won on a flush last night. Couple 2-pair and things like that. Yeah. So yeah. And then if it's junk on the board and stuff like that, if you could, like every once in a while, like if I keep king 9 or in that, but the highest number on the board is a 9. Well, then what you're rolling against is you're rolling against, like pocket 8s or pocket aces or pocket kings, queens, like there's enough other stuff that could be out there that, people are like, oh, I'm sandbagging and I'm totally going to take this joker. But anyway, so we're talking about odds on a hard 8.
Right.
I think a yo, which is an 11, a 6-5 is 15-1. And I think
boxcars and snake eyes are 30-1.
Yeah. So is it 6 or 7-1?
That's what I was thinking it was in that range, but I wasn't for sure.
Yeah, hard 8 craps payout. Oh, if Google would hard 6, hard 8 pays 9 to 1.
9-1. Okay.
Hard 4, hard 10, 7-1. Yeah, so there you go. The 4 and the 10 are 7-1. And then, because what we were really thinking about with the 6-1 is 6 and 8 in the middle of the board on the multi shot odds. Yeah, so that makes sense. 9-1. And hard 8 is one of my favorite, like my favorite throws. And then the other one, I like 5s and 9s. You know, just a little bit outside, you get a little bit more, but it's not easy money on the 6s and the 8s. I don't know. Working at 5 to 9.
Five to 9. So I mean, just a 5 total or 9 total. Is that what you're?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Or if somebody sets the point, like they could set the point at 4. Yeah. Like 4 and 10 on the outside. Those are like the likelihood of a 4 or a 10. Like on the line pays out more because they're not thrown as often.
Right.
But then you're in at that 5 to 9, and for whatever reason, I just really, so somebody could set a point at 10. My bet is I'm putting $10 on the 5, $10 on the 9, and getting paid back that money like that. People do 22 in. Right. Which is going to be 5, 6, 6, 5. And then what they're doing is they're playing all the inside numbers while the point is trying to, the thrower throws to try to hit the 10 before they throw a 7. And then you're 7 out. And so then you have your line bet that allowed you to be in the game at the time, which is either at the table, could be depending on what the limits are, but typically $5 or $10. And then behind the line, that's paying the odds on whatever is the same as the odds of what's on the board on the table. And so, so if, and then if you've been rolling for 45 minutes and you've got stacks on all the numbers, then when they move the marker to whatever your opening roll is, then the dealer's asking you, hey, where do you want me to? So if I threw a 10 for a point, but I had $40 on that, then they're going to ask me where I'm going to go. Right. I'm going to split that 40 between 5 and 9 every time.
That's fun.
Well, and because there's no change.
Right.
So like when you, because of the payouts on the odds on the 6 and the 8, for every 5 you put in, you have to have $1 with it. And so the stacks get weird, and then you got all this loose change, and I just So, yeah. And I haven't been to a casino for I remember last time. It's been 3 years. Yeah, Micah had friends in town from Colorado and stuff like that. Amy was out of town on a business trip, and it was probably right before we got married, like in June, 3 years ago. And Micah just off the cuff was like, hey, you want to go to the casino with us, guys? I'm like, sure. And his buddy loved roulette, but I was the guy who played crap. And so then I had like 4 guys around me, and they're like, what are you doing? And I did go on a good roll. Yeah. Like I walked out of the place with $600. And so started with 2, made 4. It was a good day. People are like, why don't you go back? I'm like, why would I want to go?
You got to know when to fold them.
Oh, Kenny Rogers.
Because the house always wins.
Well, it is stacked against you. And that's the thing about a compulsory or a compulsion-driven life, and stuff. And there was a time when I was running from life and running from reality that, I spent a lot of time around that table. And it's so weird. Like I enjoyed it so much that it was just like in my head, I couldn't wait for the next time to be able to have a block of time to be able to go.
Right.
But I think I was in a conversation with someone, and they were talking about how, man, when you actually, if you actually start making a list of what you really want to accomplish, in what you want to accomplish, you also have to make a list of what you're willing to eliminate. So if there's going to be plus ads, there has to be some minus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know what? That's cool. And this person was saying, hey, I don't read books
Okay.
because it takes away from creating music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right.
So minus books plus lyrics and music.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, and he's working on recording and refining the act of recording, but yeah, just willing to put, you know, and I totally could respect that. And I think that that's where, like, when it comes to, of all the things that I can do, I can't do all the things.
Mm.
And so then I have to get focused in on what do I really want to do?
Right.
Yeah. And so, and right now I think I've identified that. And so, you know, doing the work in the pottery and being glad to being done with the construction phase and moving into creating, and yeah, and that's, and I know I really enjoy it because when I don't get to do it, I'm crabby.
Hmm.
So it's always good to find out why you're being crabby,
Yeah.
right?
I do enjoy liking to find out why, because it's happened to me too. I
Yeah,
mean, like that.
yeah.
You just find like, all right, so why am I feeling like this? And whether it was for me when, you know, overcast days, like
Yeah.
vitamin D must be low, so I just started that regiment of vitamin D, and
Do you really feel like it's leveled you out?
I do, because before I was getting, like, every single overcast day,
Yeah.
I would get headaches, I would feel like dragging, and I'm okay.
Huh.
Like, I haven't had a headache on an overcast day in a while, you know. So I think I've been on vitamin D for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Wow.
Yeah.
And
So it really was, I think, a deficiency, even though.
Right.
Yeah.
so that pushes me. I again, when I walked outside today and it's 55 and overcast, I like it didn't like I don't think, oh crap, the sun's not shining. You know, like I mean, it, like for me, I'm like, oh wow, this is gonna be. And then like when the cool breeze hit my cheek, and I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I get to wear a coat, and you know, with that. We were on the phone with my son Micah before we started the podcast, and he said to add magnesium to the mix.
Yeah.
And so, but really what I need to do is start. I haven't started vitamin D. We have vitamin D at the house. I've got vitamin D, vitamin C, a daily adult male multivitamin.
Yep, I have that one too.
Yeah, and to your point, hey, understand your strengths and your weaknesses. You mentioned that you're a take one pill at one time in the day kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah, don't have to set up a regimen.
Yeah, and that's why I always like to find, like, are you, because some of the vitamin supplement stuff, they're always like, here, you need to do 3 times a day. I'm like, nope, just give me one pill. I just want one pill, because I'm not going to take it throughout the day. I won't remember. It won't be a part of my regular routine, and so I'm telling you it's not going to work. So give me a supplement that gives me one pill. And the vitamin D, one pill.
Yeah.
The probiotic, I started again, one pill. It's not multiple pills. It's not, hey, take this, no, one pill, and it's going to, so.
Phil will take multiple pills of one pill a day
Right.
of whatever the thing is.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? My mom has been a huge proponent of vitamins and holistic care. And to bring up as well, I have actually gifted you.
Right. I was just
Right.
thinking.
You need to hold this up for the camera for everybody to see. Let everybody know what's in that little blue bottle.
So, this is the essence of cobalt.
That's a 2-ounce
And
bottle,
you're saying,
folks.
how can the essence of cobalt be contained in such a bottle? Well, this is power packed. This is a bottle that has all the essence of cobalt contained.
Yeah.
And so even if we eventually have the ability to have the smell-o-vision, I think that we've got to get there sometime. You know,
Someday.
like you're watching something, and they're like, there's like
Odors
yeah
that
like,
come from your TV.
Yeah, figure it out.
Man, all the creepy movies, that would smell horrible.
Yeah, I guess that would be the other downside of that. But
I don't even want to watch The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings trilogy with smell-o-vision. Oh my gosh. No, but yeah, and if people are wondering, so it's a mix of jojoba oil or jojoba oil, however you say it, and frankincense and patchouli. And actually, there are people who like essential oils is also like a medication or it's a way to treat your body. Some people really believe in it to the point of that they get into a multi-level marketing selling of said oils.
They do.
Some people just get into the multi-level part for the pricing discounts. We're not big smells like around the Cobble LaCroix home, but I have a brand of soap, still not our sponsor, that I get at Whole Foods. It's the only reason I go to Whole Foods is for the soap.
Yeah.
It's called Dirty Hippie, and it's basically a patchouli-based soap. But yeah, Amy loves having that soap in the shower, and then as the shower's getting hot, the soap, is getting water on it, and there's a fragrance there. But another thing you can do, I wouldn't put it right down by the drain part, but I would put a couple drops in the shower of the essence of cobalt.
Yeah.
And you get that it's a warm smell. And patchouli and frankincense, you can look up the attributes of but it's usually with meditative and serenity. And so it's a peaceful smell.
Right.
And that's why when people have always commented, how do you smell the way you do? I used to wear it so heavy and I would dab a little right behind my ear because I heard that the warmth from your arteries that are going up your neck, that would help emit the smell. But what would happen is because I typically wear a vest in the winter or fall, spring, or my coat, then the oil will rub into the cloth of that. And when I would leave my coat somewhere or whatever, it would just fill up the room. And so that's where the joke of the essence of cobalt, came along. We know cobalt's been in this room. We don't know. He really, he's left his smell here. And then, so if you're wondering, hey, what? But the cool news is, I was doing an experiment now, and this is typical Enneagram 9. Okay. My dropper that I've had for about 2 years, I haven't made this stuff for 2 years. My dropper that I had lasted me about 2 years.
Wow.
And because how I mix it, now if I really wanted to make this a business, I would mix it a little less strong, and then you'd have to go through more to be able to get the smell. But what's peaceful about that? What's serene about that? And so, but I was getting low, and I'm like, man, and because the soap does so well, I haven't really been wearing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not in situations that I have to worry about whether my breath stinks or my body stinks. So I'm what? I'm going to get all doused up for me to go to the studio so Gypsy can be like, hey, baby. And so, it just is one of those things. But I'm going to be selling that on the website for Earthen Warehouse in 1 ounce bottles for $25. And if you want to be able to get some of that, I'm going to figure out the true recipe. And then the other thing the last piece to put it together is labels printed. And so,
then you got to come up with some artwork, and then
I don't know. I might go plain Jane on this stuff. Okay. I mean, if the smell is good enough, why do you have to worry about how you dress it up? Yeah. I think dressing stuff up is the ploy that what's inside isn't really good. You know, the art of
Yeah.
distraction.
That's true.
Hey, look at this fancy little bottle. Yeah, but what's inside? And versus it's unassuming. Like, and you know, and people actually are shocked that, and when I said Enneagram 9, why is because I waited till the last whatever, and I'm like, oh, I guess now I have to make it because I'm just I'm 3 drops out. So I went ahead and made up a couple bottles, and it turned out so well. I'm like, oh, we mentioned this on the podcast before. I may just follow. Why not follow through with something that I say?
Yeah. So I'm thinking that what you should also do
Okay.
is if there's to figure out if there's kind of something that you could put that you would say is a secret ingredient, because then that kind of allows a little bit more of that, like, oh, I wonder what's in here. And you can try to pick up the fragrance with your scent, and you can say, here's the main 3, but I've got a secret ingredient that actually is the thing that kind of like, you know, I mean, is there something that you can kind of hold back a little bit? Because if you give away the recipe, then somebody's like, oh, now I'll just go and make it.
Well,
Or,
but
you know,
but the thing, what the secret part
yeah,
is, I didn't tell what the ratios were.
right.
So the
So
secret,
the ratio could be the secret.
I think the ratio is the secret.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somebody could take the base oil and patchouli and frankincense, but they don't have my nose. And I counted the drop. Like, I know what my baseline recipe is.
Good.
They don't know what the ratio is. There's the key. Because other people could put it together and they'd be like, well, yeah, this kind of smells like it. Exactly. Kind of. This is authentically the essence of Kobel. Yeah. Because I'm like, yeah, that's how I smell. Boom.
That's how it smells.
As long as my self-perception is okay, right?
It's good to be tuned into that.
Oh my gosh, right?
How do I smell?
How do I smell? You know, all of a sudden, isn't there an SNL
you
skit
smell like?
where they like, she puts her hands in her armpits?
Yeah, Molly Shannon.
Yeah.
right? I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the character's name? Is Mary Catherine Gallagher, I think is the character's name.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then she would say, yeah, she would do that every time she would get nervous.
Yeah.
Smell it. Yes, knowing the scent. Yeah. So all of you cut daisies and unicorns
Oh, here.
fans,
Let me give you a close up of Phil's
Right.
lovely blues.
you will have the opportunity to continue to have what it looks like, what it smells like to be Kobel, in the essence of Kobel. So make sure you hit up Earth and Warehouse, where you can find great pottery, and you can also find great essence of Kobel.
Oh, wait. Now, I said I'm going to have it on the website, but the website's not published yet.
Right.
If they
So not
go
yet.
to the current website, it was from the past creator of my website, and it has all the old information. So it's not on the website yet. And if you ask me the question, hey, Kobel, when is the website going live? As soon as it can. And it is not an automated, AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
My website is not artificially intelligent. It's not artificially flavored either. And so just in the process of building that out, and I got probably 50% of the pictures that I really do want there. But then I have a lot of placeholder pictures on stuff that I have to shoot and then come back to and fill in.
Right.
And I'm doing all that while Lord knows that I'm trying to get more pottery done, but life is taking a toll.
Sure.
And so again, I'm in a delay pattern where I just keep making messes and keep having to clean up my stuff. But I wanted to be selling pottery at the 1st of October. That's still not happening.
Yeah.
Wanted to do it by the 1st of November. Well, today, when people are listening to this,
Right.
the 1st of November is tomorrow. It's going to be a 1st of November Monday. Well, and then my daughter and son-in-law have a reception at the end of the week, and so I'm going to be back to Iowa, and there's travel involved in that. And so, oh, my word.
Did you get your painting done?
See, as I was getting ready this morning, this was what I was working towards not feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so how my head worked in regards to that is the painting done. See, I have to always come back and answer the questions that I'm not really answering. Is the painting done? No.
Uh-oh.
Is there good progress on the painting? Yes.
Oh, well, that's good. That's at least a good answer there.
Can the painting be finished by the deadline? I hope so.
When are you leaving for the 515?
Well, see, that's why I think it'll be pushed out to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Is because I need to capitalize on my Monday, Tuesday. Because we have a full weekend again this weekend. Ames got a work function that I am going to be attending on Saturday.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, this day that everyone's listening to, is Candy Kingdom. And so we have set aside time to be actively involved. I actually know what my costume is going to be. I am going to go to the studio following our podcast and watch all 3 episodes of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Nice.
And I don't know if I'll be a damsel in distress or an actual pirate.
Oh, man.
All jokes aside, folks, although the idea of the freedom of what a dress would avail set every Irishman alive. I'm not gonna. I love gypsy dresses on women. I haven't seen them on men, but it's kind of like the dress that you'd see in Peaky Blinders, and stuff like that. And I just joke about being the damsel in distress.
I was thinking you were saying you were going to go as like Captain Jack or something. So
well, I don't think that I have everything put together to be able to do Captain Jack in the Captain Jack Ness S or S Ness. But I'm thinking Amazon will be able to deliver this week an eye patch and maybe some blackout wax. And if I can be missing a tooth and having an eye patch, I have a black bandana or a red one or a pink one or a blue one that I can put over my head. Yeah. And I've got some bracelets and stuff like that. I probably need to dig around. Maybe I might even get like a dangly chain cross or something like that. I have a stained glass cross up at the studio. Maybe I'll just put that on a thread of leather shoe lace or something like that to be able to wear around. And then it's just kind of like I'll wear my old work boots and I'll roll up my pant legs, and I mean, yeah. And so I think if I do an eye patch with a bandana on my head, people will get it because I got the beard going and I just walk around going, arrgh.
Because everybody.
Happy Halloween. Arrgh.
Talk like a pirate.
I can talk like a pirate. And then I just do a Captain Morgan stance every once in a while. Right?
Yeah, even though I'm not a big fan of rum.
No, me either. When I was not feeling well, I got to watch multiple episodes of Moonshiners, and was just again amazed at the craft of distilling moonshine.
Yeah,
and what these guys are true artists, artisans in regards to. But rum was one of the things that they were like that was the challenge of this master moonshiner thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we were talking about that's happening, whether people are listening or not listening. We could always say, hey, if you want to get in the spirit of Halloween, we'll probably do that for the push on Friday. Hey, you've got two choices, go back and listen to the Halloween episode.
Right.
Or, dive in and listen to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you? What are you going to be?
I have no idea. So I usually don't. I haven't been creative with my my costume choices in a long, long time.
Really?
Yeah. Usually, what I do is grab my my Viking, helmet that has the two kind of things here. I think before I got that one, and then I would get. And I put on a Bears jersey, and I called myself a walking contradiction with the Vikings and the Bears.
Nice.
But I have gone as like the lion before, because I had a big fro thing. I still have that, Heather likes that picture. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if she likes me in a fro, but
yeah.
So there's that. But I usually don't think about it. And then it's always like I scramble like the day before, and I'm like, hey, what should I do? I'm like, I don't know. I'll just throw something on.
I think why I landed at pirate is because I get to do my eyes again. I'll put on some eyeliner and darken up a little bit. And,
right.
Yeah, and I mean that because Johnny Depp. I mean that like he's such a great princess pirate.
He is.
Yeah, and how he
princess pirate.
Yeah.
There's a whole subgenre of princess pirates.
Oh my gosh. Hey, so for our episode today, what I was thinking about is I have a topic to throw it on the table.
Just throw it out.
All right. Analog versus digital. We've briefly in past episodes talked a little bit about what I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
For music lovers, analog to digital would be the difference between tubes and solid state when it comes to the mechanicals of whether it's an amp, record player, receiver tuner, that kind of thing.
Right.
But I have boiled down life into analog versus digital. And just wanted to toss some things out there on like, what do you prefer?
Yeah.
Analog or digital? Now, I think this will be everybody. You got to hold on with us here because we're not going to end up at the only thing that you've ever heard us talk about. But I'm just bringing Phil into this as something to ponder.
Right.
But the difference between holding a book and having a book on an app, digital book.
Right. Yeah.
Or I'm going to add a second, an audio book. So if you had a choice between the three, which would you pick?
Like for me, I think that, and I always say like, it depends. So if I'm trying so there is something still about having the book, right? Having a paper book. I can make notes.
Hashtag
book. Yeah, right.
Forever.
Right. Book. But if I'm trying to consume it quickly, what I know is that audio is going to be the best for me.
Yeah.
I can get through it quicker.
Yeah.
Because then somebody else is doing the work and I'm just processing auditorily.
Yeah.
So it's coming in, I can hear it through my ears. I can do other things even, like I can be working out and listening, which I have done before.
Yeah.
Listening to books that way.
Yeah.
And to me, and people say, oh, but isn't that kind of like multitasking, and multitasking, has been proven to not be effective. Like, I get you, but I still consume it. And I can still pull out, oh, here's where, here's things that I've learned. Now, people, I mean, they're like, and I actually have, like, that's happened. Now, do I catch like 100% of all the material that's there? Maybe not.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I don't get some of the things that are also happening, major points, pieces of it. Yeah, I find that it is helpful in that auditory place to be able to consume something that way.
Yeah.
I have gotten more away from like the actual digital book now. So what I've been doing is either now, I mean, because I still have books digitally on my computer, or on my iPad, on my phone. But I've been finding that recently I haven't been reading it that way. It's usually been a paper book or it's been audio.
Yeah.
And so really when it comes down to preference, it's always like, it depends. Am I trying to read through it? Is there something that I'm trying to be able to get from the book? That means, chances are I'm going to try to do audio.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to be able to enjoy and just be able to spend time outside of technology, then let's do paper book.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I've found that is a good means for me. What do you think?
Well, I would say, and this goes back to a funny story that Michaela and I lived through together in my trip to Atlanta. I was like, hey, yeah, I'll probably take an Uber to go get barbecue. And said Uber or Lyft. I said, it'll probably be Uber because that's the app that I have on my phone and I don't have Lyft. And she just belly laughed. She's like, oh my gosh, dude, like it would take you that long to download the Lyft app. I'm like, well, the thing is that in the App Store, I'd have to fill out my password. I don't have my password memorized. So what it really means that I have to do is pull up my computer to get my password to be able to download the app, to be able to get in, to be able to download the Lyft app. Yeah. And again, first world problems, and the Wi-Fi wasn't working in the hotel room. So, and since we're on the 23rd floor, it wasn't working up in the air. And so I'd have to go down to the lobby with my password to be able to download the app to be able to use Lyft instead of Uber. So guess what I did? I Ubered.
Makes sense.
So when you say, hey, which do you prefer? Well, I don't have a reading app on my phone. I don't have an Audible reading app like where like an Audible book could be read to me on my phone. I don't have that on my iPad. I don't have it on my computer. I haven't downloaded any of that. So by default, if I'm reading, it's going to be a book. Yeah. But I prefer analog. And that actually is I would say it's a signature move of Koble. I'm an analog kind of guy. But I realize I'm evolving, and there are a lot of digital things that I really do enjoy. And so, for instance, I committed to at the record player that I have at the home at our home. It's solid state. I don't feel bad about that. It's clarity, good stuff. People are like, "Oh, you're missing the warmth." I'm like, "Oh, but my record player at the studio is analog." It's a tube record player, and you could definitely tell the difference. I mean, the lows, the heavies, and things like that. And so when it comes to amps and electric guitars, I'm an analog guy. The amps that I have that I play electric guitar through have tubes. I don't, but I'm not a jazzer. I mean, there is room there, and there are bass players that play through solid state amps. And it really works well for them. I would argue usually the people who sound really good through solid state are usually using a P bass, and that's just a miracle bass and this is my opinion, how I like to listen to music and stuff like that. So Now, when it comes to when I listen to music, hey, what are your thoughts on Spotify? What are your thoughts on Apple Music? What are your thoughts on listening to music digitally versus listening to music on CDs versus listening to music on records?
Right.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, so, this always is also, it all depends. I mean, because I also know your thoughts on Spotify. I mean, we talked about that, but
Tell them your depends.
Right.
I feel like I'm going to be changing your diaper here pretty quick.
Depends. So I again, going back to the enjoyment of it, like if I'm trying to enjoy an album, if I'm trying to enjoy an artist, it's going to go back to vinyl now. And I love the intricacies of vinyl. And because to me, I do find that there is, I mean, when it's on vinyl, you can hear it a little bit more. Like I don't even know how to explain it auditorily, but I feel like you can hear, some of the things that that are maybe filtered out when you get it on a digital, MP3, whatever format. And so I when I'm trying to be able to enjoy it, yeah, like vinyl is going to be the place to enjoy it. Now, if I'm pulling up somebody's like, hey, you should check out, X, Y, and Z artist. They've got a new song. Check that out. Well, then I'm going to go directly. I'm going to, whether it's Google, tell me, where to find it. And yes, I could go to Spotify directly. I could go to Amazon Music. I don't really use Apple Music, which it's kind of surprising because I use a lot of Apple products.
Yeah.
But I don't use Apple Music.
Yeah.
So I do have Spotify and I do have Amazon Music, and those are the two that I would go to just find a song to be able to just hear what it is.
Yeah.
Now I know that they don't treat artists very well as
Right.
far as like the royalties go.
Yeah.
And so I try not to be able to consume too much there. Like if I'm going to go, like I've gone to Amazon and pulled up some podcasts before because Wondery's tied in with Amazon, and Amazon has, lots of podcasts that then have content that's there because they're paying for it. Like they're paying these podcasters, like, some of them lots of money in order to
substantial
find their home there, even
Yeah.
though they're also found in other places. But if you want to find the content, like they're drawing you to Amazon to make sure that these podcasts are listened to from there. It's fine. But as far as the artists go, I'll check something out on there digitally and say, is this something that I can also look into to be able to enjoy or consume also elsewhere? I don't think I've listened to a CD in a long time. Even though there's still I have a CD player in the car. I don't know. I don't know if we've ever used it in the car.
And to that point,
Right.
the next question, do you have a CD player in your home?
No.
See, so the age of CD has aged out in your practical application.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
kind of like cassettes, even though there wasn't kind of a
there is.
Right. They're bringing some of these things back on cassette as well. It's like the problem is now there's not many things that have a cassette player. So
Right.
But just like vinyl made a comeback, I mean, I think that there's an opportunity to also consider, all right, is there another avenue that you can consume and enjoy music on? Sure. I think that I mean, and it is going back to that. I mean, like you're an artist. You wouldn't want somebody like, hey, so I've got this art and I'm going to put out, and somebody's like, yeah, but I can get that piece right here for nothing.
Right.
Why would I consume your product here when I can get it here for nothing?
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing. I mean,
yeah.
that's I would say you're cheating. Like you're cheating an artist.
But there There is an opportunity, and I'll do this here. There's an opportunity, folks, where you can actually move into that when it comes to digital music. You can have integrity and support the artist. And so, actually, the first person that ever made me think about that was James Bean, whom we have done an interview with on our podcast, and you could be able to jump into season 1, find James Bean, and listen to this wonderful human being, and hear about his life story, music, and things like that. But he actually brought up that if he listened to a song more than twice or 3 times, then he would purchase that song if he was drawn into it. I took it into a different level, in that if there is an artist and there's an album that I've listened through, even if if I'm like, yeah, I really get that and I really love it, then what I started to do is through iTunes, I would buy the album. I mean, that's going to cost you $5.99 to $9.99 to $12.99, whatever. And then I would have it digitally and have it available. But then wouldn't feel bad about listening to it on the other services because I already paid for it. So I paid for the rights to listen to it as often as I want. So wherever I listen to it, I would let the depends moment be, hey, if I'm in the car and I've got the Bluetooth hooked up with the phone and stuff like that. So whether it was Amazon Music, whether it was Apple Music, or whether it was Spotify. I don't pay for the Spotify service. I probably should. Again, there are areas that I'm like looking at when we talked about adding and subtracting. It just like right now, this isn't a season for me to do that. But what I would also say is then there's a part of saying, I have bought into this artist. And so by buying into this artist, then what I do is I actually spend money that I wouldn't normally spend on that artist. I do it in support of for the artist, for the livelihood. And what that looks like is going onto their website and buying their merch, and consistently.
Right.
Like I will be heading into Thanksgiving, and I'll be on Gregory Alan Isaacoff's site and look for new T-shirt designs. And if I've got T-shirts wearing out and I need T-shirt for replacement, I may just as well be supporting an artist in a way. Went to Chicago Music Exchange last weekend. I wasn't there to buy a guitar, but I wanted to support the industry, support the employees, support what was going on.
Yeah.
So I bought a T-shirt, and I have that, and I'll rotate out a T-shirt that's worn out or I got paint on or whatever, and just see that as an avenue of showing support. As an artist, then that's what I would say. Is that, people can do it different ways. Again, on the website that's not published, one of the items that I'm doing is selling gift cards. People could say, you know what, I don't have room on a shelf for another knickknack that I'm going to have to dust. Really, Coble, what are you doing? You're creating stuff that's filling up space, but you talk about minimalism. I'm like, or go through the knickknacks and what that had value of or memory to you, what needs to be discarded. You're like, yeah, that was a different season, different time, and I would like to have this to be able to be a part or a memory of, and things like that. That's another reason why in my creating pottery, I want to create pottery that people are going to be able to use every day.
Right.
So then, whether you're mixing salad and it's a personal salad, then you can have a personal salad bowl, or whether you're hosting your family and like we talked on our food part, we're like, hey, we want to celebrate eating together, and what that is an opportunity for family to talk, to be able to share, to be able to be pulled in together. And so that's what that's for. Then there's statement pieces, and in those statement pieces, and quite frankly, people are like, if I went to, because I read the book that Heather gave me about the Mad Potter.
Yeah.
Fantastic story. Fantastic story. And literally what this gentleman was charging for his pottery was the equivalent of 1 month's wages at the time.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't matter where you are in the U.S. or how much money you make. I can't imagine charging 1 month's salary for any of the pieces of the pottery that I make.
Yeah.
But, I take a look at it, and it's a combination of how much work goes into it. It's a combination of, weight, size, like all of those different things go together. And ultimately what I'm going to be doing as an artist is being like, hey, will you buy into my section of artistry?
Right.
And people can say yes, people can say no. It's a free market. I mean, so when it comes to music, analog or digital, I would say that in application that I really enjoy listening to vinyl. Much for many of the reasons that you've said. The other thing is that it's a physically engaging practice, because my record player doesn't turn records. There's no repeat button.
You're right.
I personally, for the care of my LPs, don't pick up and drop down and listen to the same song over and over and over again. So what I'm doing is I'm capturing more of the whole of the artist,
right,
instead of one thing. The other thing is, a lot of times when vinyl was originally being done, it was treated as a whole project for the experience. The artist wasn't saying, all right, we got a banger here. There's one song that's going to be a hit, right, and then there's so much to listen to. And actually the artist that comes out to me that I would say would be like Phil Collins. When you listen to Genesis or any of the Phil Collins work, the whole works are worth listening to, not just the ones that they play on the radio.
Right.
And that's the other thing is, if music is part of, it's the music, but for me, and I know that I'm not like a lot of people in regards to this, to me, the lyrical content really does matter. And so I like to hear what the artists are really saying through their songs, the poetry that they're painting with their words,
right,
and how that goes together. But I can enjoy that, in all formats. And that's why I'm drawn to KXRT. Again, hashtag not a sponsor. Radio stations are actually looking for sponsors, not necessarily, but they do sponsor like live concerts and things like that. So they do put in, for that. Right. But one of the reasons I like it is because they spin vinyl, and they also, are bringing out all these different, and the people who are the DJs have so many years in their audiophiles. Like, I mean, they love music and love all the different kinds. And so the stories that they individually bring about whether they've met the artist or, and the different factoids that they've learned. I mean, they're like geeks about the information about these songs and stuff. And so I enjoy that story part when it gets to audio. And so analog, I would be an analog yes and.
Yeah, something I've recently been in the mix of too, which I've found interesting, is I've got XM, Sirius, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess they're the same company now, but they still have separate names attached.
Yeah.
But they have like individual stations based on an artist. So right now there's a limited Foo Fighters one,
cool.
and so it not only does it play a whole bunch of Foo Fighters, but it also is like, they're in charge of their station.
Oh yeah.
So then they also, every once in a while, they'll come on with a little piece and say, hey, this is what, we were thinking here. This is what we were, or we were really influenced by this band, and hey, we just want to play some of that for you, our influences that went into it. So if you're a big fan here, then this is also something you would find interesting. So, I mean, they have like staples. So, I mean, they have a Billy Joel
Yeah.
in a limited release as well. Hills Will Be Gone, shortly at the same time as Foo Fighters.
Nice.
But I mean, but they have the ones that they have that don't go away, like U2. There's a Bob Marley. There's a there's a ton of them, but Beatles channel. There's Dave Matthews Band. I mean, but it's the same kind of perspective of this kind of highlights this band, sure, because they're a popular band or whatever, but it also kind of digs into some of the ones that might be unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
so, I mean,
we really can appreciate because we love the story. We love the
Exactly.
story about what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What other things? Analog, digital. I mean, so for me, I would even move into how do you experience the part of recording your thoughts? Do you like writing things on paper? Or are you a person that would rather sit at a keyboard and type things in? How do you organize your thoughts? I would move our listeners to consider just casting a little idea thought out your way. This is for those who are listening. You won't see my hands, but I'm on camera. I'm throwing it, and it's not jazz fingers, not jazz hands, but just throwing this out into the universe of your path in life, and saying, you're like, well, I don't write down my thoughts. Mm-hmm. Well, it could be something you may consider. Mm-hmm. Don't organize, my thought. I have checklists. Mm-hmm. Well, that's doing. I'm really referring to being.
What I've when considering this part, I would say most of the time I've gone digital in this era.
Yeah.
I do have physical journals as well that I have done in the past, but I've noticed that this is probably, I don't know, last 5 years or so, I've been doing most of that journaling computer, right?
Really?
Digitally.
Yeah.
And that's where, 'cause I don't know. And part of it for me is like, I'm also trying to keep it in a place where I know it's going to be. Sometimes if it's true. If it's on paper, it gets lost.
How can you find it?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's partly the reason why I went more digital in that era.
Yeah.
Of recording things.
Yeah.
Is like I've got to make sure I know where it's at. And here on my computer, I can keep a folder that's completely, or I can have a hard drive that I've got it on my hard drive and I know where to access it, and it's easy to pull up, and it's, password protected if I would like to be able to keep things, not quite ready for public consumption.
Right.
And so to me, that's where I've moved to in a lot of that area is like, let's keep it digital because I'll know where it's at.
Yeah. Well, and there's an advantage for people who are analog about recording that. The very cool thing that you brought up is the ease of access to be able to find it. Right. You can put it in the search bar, and you can put out the topic of what it was that you were writing down. I really like paper, but on the flip side, I found an app for my iPad where I can write, and then it actually turns my writing into the typed page. And so that's really beneficial for things that I end up wanting to publish or wanting to put out there and have in written form. If I go to whether it's speaking, whether it's, devotional thought, sermon thought, whatever, and stuff like that, I'll work that out on paper and then put it into digital so that I can have it concisely and easy access on my iPad when I, be able to go to those notes. And yet there's another part where it's both and for me, because like even with drawings and stuff, I've digitized them all into JPEGs so that I can review them. I print them off if I want to use them, or I have my archive. It's in a satchel suitcase, mid 1960s era Samsonite, and dig through. I've got one picture that I had that I was actually there's two. One's a group of faces, and the other one is this universe thing with a lot of little bubbles and dots and stuff like that. I've got to find the originals, and I don't know which journal it's in. or what suitcase I logged it in. So and that's your point. Your point is, hey, and there's at least you've made the leap over me. I've got a leg on one side and a leg on the other, and everybody knows what happens. Right. In that situation, it's going to be a painful experience for me, not for anybody else. A lot of people have in their hands the technology. I'm going to talk about cameras, analog or digital. Mm-hmm. Do you remember back in the day when you would go to the gas station to get a Kodak camera that came in a box and a foil, and you'd open it up and you could smell the film, and then you'd use that little pocket disposable camera and click pictures, and then you'd go
you didn't know what you actually took a picture of.
Right, and people are so used to with their camera. And actually, the new iPhone, I guess, the 3-camera system and stuff like that, I mean, like, people are making movies with these phones. Mm-hmm. That's even in their advertising. Right. In our studio, we have 3 digital cameras that are capturing the video. And basically it's a pass-through from the lens that is digitized. They're digital cameras, but then it, HDMI out into our switcher, and then it all comes together for this one-shot picture and stuff like that. So I'm going to toss that to you. I'm going to prophesy that you are a digital camera guy.
Yeah, I would probably say. I mean, because I'm also not. I'm not also up on many of the camera things other than like I know what HD is and 4K. Some of that technology as far as viewing on the other side of it, it's easier to say, all right, well, if I capture it in an HD, then it's easier to view HD.
Yeah.
If I don't know, like, I mean, some of your Nikon cameras, like, I don't know how to work all of them with all of the stops, like, okay, cool, tell me what to do. I can go through that. I mean, I'm pretty proficient in being able to follow the steps on that, but like actually understanding what this f-stop does and like how to be able to capture things, like I wouldn't know about many of those things.
But the thing is, we can tell even to our listener who is probably phone camera driven, that, I mean, if they've taken it to that level and you take pictures, you don't have to be a professional photographer to be able to get good pictures. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was a big whine and grind with professional photographers because all these people are showing up with their camera phones and or their phone cameras and and all this stuff. And yet, still, you may not know what an ISO is, but you know that if we change it, it brightens or darkens the image that we're receiving. The other thing you do know is that focus is necessary. Mm-hmm. And point of focus really matters. And then the other thing is when we talk about f-stops, it's the size of the aperture or the iris. And the smaller you go, the darker the image. The wider you go, and then the more light that you're letting in then turns into the speed of the film. Back in the analog days, you bought 100, 200, 400, 800, 2000. Like, these are speeds. That means how sensitive the film is to light. Mm-hmm. And so if you were doing action shots, you'd want a faster film because you didn't want it to blur. And then artists take the slower film and say, but I do want the image to blur. And just all different stuff like that. And so actually I was going through, because I'm building the site that hasn't been published yet.
Right. It'll someday be to you.
And looking at the pictures, and what I ended up with was, I'm like, oh, I need to. My camera's not doing me any good in the closet at my home when I need to be taking pictures in the studio. And so tomorrow I'll be bringing the digital camera. I grew up with an analog camera, and so the funny part is that I just on like Craigslist picked up a Canon, I think AE-1 analog camera, and I've had film for it for 3 years. And so I pulled that out. I'm like, there's something about holding a picture. I also have Polaroid cameras and film.
Yeah.
There's something about being able to have a picture, and there are, I have thousands. I think to go through for the website, I pulled up my old files from my old phone. Mm-hmm. I have 5,000 pictures saved to a secondary hard drive as a backup for these are the things that I've had, and stuff like that, but I don't print them out. Mm-hmm. And yet there are lots of online digitized ways to get the physical copy of pictures as well. And much like art, I would say that's another thing. You can go through your pictures, and what would it take to be able to get a physical part of that as a piece, not only just to look at and to remember the season, but that becomes a conversation starter. Mm-hmm. For people as they're in their home, whether they're having friends in their home or family in their home, it's a good reminder for those things. So analog and digital. Take a look around in your life and start asking the question, what does it mean to be analog? What does it mean to be digital? I don't know how that translates to food. Maybe it's the difference between baking, cooking, barbecuing, stovetop, oven, and maybe the difference of that being analog and the digitized is microwave, pre-processed, pre-prepared. Mm-hmm. And there's probably an in-between with that, which is people have used ovens and stoves in ways hand-prepared, but it's been cooked for you. Mm-hmm. And it can either be picked up for carry-out, it could be eaten in the restaurant, or it can be brought home, And so, and then tell me, but it probably depends.
It's always going to depend. Yeah, I mean, as far as the cooking go, I mean, we've talked about it even recently this season.
Yeah.
And I enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
But there are times, like you also, like I don't have the time in order to put into this.
Yeah.
Like I'd like something quicker.
Yeah.
And fast.
Yep.
Like I don't have time to cook. I didn't plan, so therefore now I'm behind, and if I'm behind and I've got to get, so then it's like, nope, just give it, what's fast, what's quick. How can we consume this,
Yeah.
like without having put a ton of time into it. And I think that's where, that comes. Like if I'm taking, like, hey, like we're going to enjoy a meal, then I'd like to put some time into it.
Yeah.
And be able to then say, oh, like the flavors go together, that kind of thing. And yeah. Last night I didn't know what I was going to cook. Heather was, gone. And so we had a rotisserie chicken. I was like, all right, I'm going to pull this off, throw some green chilies, cheese, and then roll it up in a tortilla, baked it out as an enchilada in there. And so there's some of the mixture of flavors with the green chilies, with cheese, with enchilada sauce,
Nice.
Yeah. But so, I mean, it didn't take a ton of time, but it was like, I didn't know, it wasn't planned. It was kind of like, I don't know what to do. Let's see, what do we have?
Yeah.
Pull it in. So turned out pretty decently. I mean, it's not gourmet, but it's
Probably the meal I enjoyed the most. I enjoyed having barbecue because I haven't ordered it here in Chicago probably for the last couple months. But we stopped at a Mediterranean place. It got 5 stars. It was 350 feet away from the hotel when we were in Atlanta. And they had a rosemary chicken, a Mediterranean rosemary chicken with a rosemary sauce that they drizzled over the top of it. And I think Amy had the right call. She's like, I really think this is rotisserie. Like that they put the whole chicken on, had all the seasons, and they just did this slow bake in rotisserie.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It was the star of our meal. And all of the food tasted fantastic. But to your point, upon our return, I went to the freezer and pulled out a bunch of food and let it thaw last night, put it back in the fridge, and tonight is food prep night. So because heading into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the busyness, I'm just going to prep all the food. So we'll be able to throw it in the microwave or back onto the top of the stove and be able to have our meals set and ready to go. Yeah. So digital and analog. Mm-hmm. Digital and is this digital? And people are like, well, I really don't care. I'm just going to live life. But, I think there are, ways to be able to look at life and say, man, we need to come back to a little bit of analog here.
And that's what I was just thinking as far as real life relationships,
right.
Digital or analog.
See, dude, you
right.
see where this goes? Mm-hmm. And how has, because of the pandemic, I actually saw an article just the other day that was saying that most young people prefer digital relationship over like in person. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? The beginning of the extinction of humanity.
Yeah, because I think, and I look at, I don't see digital relationships that are really in depth. Like you can share things digitally that might be still a shade of vulnerability. Even have some authenticity, but yet, like how real can they be? I mean, because you get these things where people can live like a completely different digital life than their actual real life.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's preferred by people because they can't stand their real life.
Right. Right.
And so they're looking to be able to project something digitally that they might see in themselves, but is not reality.
Right.
And so what does that look like?
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard of the term catfishing, right?
I have.
Digital catfish.
I have, but I'm not familiar with the term, like in its definition or what that really means.
Yeah. Well, there's people who are portrayed as one thing that aren't, right?
Okay.
So a catfisher would say, and then they use this in, sometimes romantic relationships. So there might be somebody who's saying this is their picture, right? That, they're putting themselves off as a, beautiful person. And this beautiful person is now looking for, somebody else. And usually in catfishing, they're looking for somebody who's going to be a little bit more gullible to understand, that this really isn't them. But they dig into these, but, and they're trying to come across as somebody who might be interested in them, who might want to know about them, who might want to, really have an actual relationship with, but yet, a lot of the catfishers are, like if they're trying to put themselves off of a woman, it might be like some dude, sitting behind a keyboard, trying to get something from people, gift cards, money, trips, like what can you give me, for this kind of digital relationship that we're in?
It's overt deception.
Yeah. Now there are people that that say, oh, I get a lot out of these, even if it's somebody that's completely fake that they learn about, but I got something out of the relationship. Somebody heard me, somebody, responded to me, somebody was interested in me. And for that, they were like, I'm willing to pay, to, like, yeah, like that for me, nah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking to invest in digital relationships.
Well, and I think, because we did take a call from Micah.
Right.
He called right before the podcast started. And I think we can tie this in, even in close relationship, whether it's family, friends that we have established over the years.
Right.
But like when Micah was saying, "Hey, can't wait to see you guys next week," you could hear the anticipation in his voice of, "Oh, we get to be together again."
Right.
And you could hear it in the tone of his voice. And it wasn't a text. Totally different kind of communication. What he called about and what he called for, he totally could have texted. But he reached out, and we were hearing each other, I would say, in an analog communication style, talking on the phone.
Yeah.
And yet, how many people in a generation are like, I don't want to talk to people. I just text me, like I don't want to deal with that, like personal conversation. And I know some introverts that their preferred means of communication is they would rather text, in that. But, oh my gosh, did my heart was just happy to hear his voice.
Right.
And now I'm reflecting and saying, oh, he's excited about us being able to be face to face in proximity, and not whether it's Zoom or, texting or, and whatever. And so,
and it's always, I'm grateful for the medium, but like you can't say that it's the same thing. Like,
right.
I've got a friend that we see each other on Zoom, when he's in Florida. Right. And, so he's there, and I still see him on a frequent once a week.
Yeah.
But it's still not the same.
Right.
With him being present physically.
Right.
So you're like, there's a so when you see them, you're not like, oh, like, yeah, I see you every week. No, you're like, oh, like, I'm glad to see you. Like,
yeah.
And there's a difference. You can't tell me that there isn't a difference.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're looking at somebody on a screen versus like looking at them in full dimension.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it's the same even with the voice. Like, even if it was just an audio means, you're like, it's not going to be the same as actually being and sharing the same physical space.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
It's
true.
And
that's where you get the excitement in his voice, the excitement in your voice is like, no, there will be, and this is more of a short time now before we actually get to share the same space together.
Yeah, so. And actually in Amy's profession, when I met her, she was traveling 70% of the time on any given week, which meant like pretty much 3 weeks out of the month, she was gone on Monday, home on Thursday. And again, I mean, that even though we worked on relationship, conversation, we talked a lot on the phone, with her being away. But the reality is, it's not the same as when she's present physically home, and that kind of thing. Now with this next job, or the job she's in right now, it was supposed to be 50%. It's looking more like 30. I mean, whatever. But again, there are those things, distance makes the heart grow fonder versus out of sight, out of mind, And so good chat, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things to be able to consider in that realm because, I mean, I think then we shouldn't be just saying, hey, let's look for more digital connection. I mean, like, yeah, let's keep that realm. I'm not saying eliminate it completely, but I think we should be trying to shoot for more analog.
Yeah.
Analog relationship, real conversation, real sharing space, because then you get more of the the whole, they're like reading people's body, the body signals that are being put off as well. And I mean, and yes, there's then like eye contact.
Yeah.
Now there are people who are on the spectrum who don't make eye contact,
it's
right?
True.
So you're like, okay, but even in that, you're understanding people,
right?
Like, yeah, so maybe that makes people uncomfortable. Cool, like, but yet we still get to share the same space.
Yeah.
We get to know a little bit more about what that means for people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good conversation. And it's good to be able to have that. I mean, if you need to have that conversation out there, people.
Yeah.
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 I mean, because we would love to be able to share the same space with others as well.
Yeah. That's true. Well, just to let our listeners know, we're right at the hour and 30 mark, and we were shooting for 45 minutes. But I think we did a fair assessment on, like, that topically we're not bounced all over the place. We're going to be able to say analog versus digital. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at the first 40 minutes or so is, some beginning work, and then it was about that time that we switched, kind of went to analog digital talk. And,
yeah. Well, we sure appreciate you being with us and listening, and we're looking forward to publishing, as we said, episode number 4, season 4, episode number 4. It's a hard 8.
Right, it's a hard 8. Call back.
All right, everybody.
Enjoy your Halloween.
Yeah, the sugar buzz, the candy high.
All right, take care, everybody.
Yeah.